So I guess Gully Boards started late 2017 with a bit of a wild idea to not just make skateboards, but make really beautiful skateboards. I used to work at a design agency, and one of the guys I worked with there was an old school skater, and he would always show me great images and photos of boards that he'd find around the world. And I remember seeing one board that he sent me from a guy that made them in England, and I just thought it was amazing, and I was like, I need to have a go at making my own skateboards. And it was really from that point that it kind of all started, and it took quite a while to kind of get some early concepts and I guess clear ideas on how I wanted to do it, what my take on making boards was going to be. Lots of people do it in lots of places, but I needed to find my way of doing it. So it really kind of grew from there, and a lot of prototypes early on, a lot of prototypes. I think we went through maybe 10 or 12 different timbers and different shapes and thicknesses, and where to place trucks and all sorts of weird and wonderful things. But I guess as things sort of grew, the prototypes started getting better. I had a few friends riding boards and riding a couple of different boards myself, and it really started to take shape. And it was probably 18 months in before I actually got serious about, okay, there could be a business here. It really just started out as a bit of fun, and then it really grew from there. So it was probably 2017, 2018 that Gully Boards was actually born. Put a name to the idea and put a logo to the name, and then from there really things picked up pace, and we got to a stage where we were ready to start selling boards to the general public. And I guess from there it's started to take a life of its own. So within a couple of months, realised pretty quickly that what I like to ride isn't necessarily what everybody else likes to ride, and so that was a little bit of a shock, I suppose, but really great feedback from friends and friends of friends that were testing boards and riding boards to really narrow in on what it was that we wanted to do. And then it was late 2018, early 2019 that we probably decided that just making skateboards wasn't going to be enough, and we really needed to have a think about other products that we can start to make and sell, and so that's where the concept for the apparel came in, and some of the early designs probably were on the website by early 2019, which was pretty cool. So I think the earliest timbers and the first timbers that we used to make our boards was timber that Dad had in the old workshop. So stuff that had been lying around for 10, 15, probably 25 years, gathering dust and sawdust in the corner of the workshop. We got to grab that out and started making boards with it, and really lucky that some of the stuff that he had lying around looked pretty ordinary sitting in the corner, but by the time you'd stripped it back, it was this incredible timber. So I think the first run of boards that we made are still some of the best boards that we've ever made, and it kind of comes down to what you can find, and that's been part of the fun along the way, is sifting through a recycled timber place to see what might be in their junk box that you can strip back and turn into a board in some way, shape or form is really cool. And I think that's half the fun of it. You're sort of taking this piece of timber that's incredibly old, has had a previous life doing something, is sitting idly in a timber merchant's shed, and then we get a hold of it and we give it a new lease on life. And it's kind of cool to see what we can make out of old timber, turn it into a new board, and then it gets a second, maybe even a third life, and that's really cool to see. And so moving on, as the business has grown, we've needed more timber, and it's not always easy to source large quantities of recycled timber, and so we do work with a couple of wholesalers who work with the mills to get us some sustainably sourced timbers. So the timber that we use for the Gully Junior Cruiser, our kids board, is sustainably sourced Vic Ash. We don't use recycled timber in that board, and that's just so that we get consistency of product. So it's really important that the quality of the timber is at 100% all of the time. And unfortunately, when you're sifting through piles and piles of recycled timber, it's not always up to scratch, and so it makes it really hard to get the consistent quantities that we need in the timber that we use these days. But we still get to use the recycled stuff in our custom boards, which is really awesome, and getting to use different species, different colours, mixing and matching, and that's a lot of fun when we get to put different timbers together these days. The workshop itself is actually at my dad's house. Really fortunate to have been able to start and continue to work out of his old workshop. Dad was a retired chippy, had the space, had some of the tools to get us started, and it's been really awesome to be able to evolve that space over the last couple of years into what's now our fully functioning workshop, and we're able to put out a couple of hundred boards a year now in this, albeit small, but really functional and really useful workspace. So hopefully we can stay here for a little bit longer, but definitely look to expand and move out of here at some point in the near future. Yeah, as the workshops evolve, we've been updating our tools and machinery, and something that didn't have the money to do at first. Working with a couple of very old sanders and a very old router that got us started, but we've been able to upgrade equipment as we've moved forward, and that's been a really big deal in being able to make more boards more efficiently. And so I think as we keep growing, we're going to keep upgrading our machinery to make sure that not only are we able to still produce really, really high quality boards, but we're able to do it as quickly as possible, which is going to be really important moving forward. So the kids board was kind of born out of two places. We'd seen a couple of examples overseas of some similar concepts, but hadn't seen anyone try to make it out of solid timber. And so we sort of took that challenge at the same time as a couple of friends, youngsters, were looking to ride skateboards, but they didn't have any options to really help them start. So I guess the concept really was born out of training wheels for a skateboard, and so we sort of started with some very, very ordinary prototypes that we should probably have taken more photos of now, because they were pretty ordinary to start with, but evolved quite quickly and worked with a couple of local engineers in the outset to try and find the right pieces to work with the timber. And we knew that we couldn't make it all out of timber, so we were trying to find ways to use as much timber as possible, but also make it as functional as possible to package, take out, put together, and then evolve as the kids grow. So what we've ended up with, I think, is really exciting, and certainly in its early stages, it's had a great reception from the public, and we've had some really good feedback. I think it's really sleek. There's not too many kids products out there that are made from solid timbers, and so really proud to be able to put that kind of product into the marketplace, knowing that the board, the deck itself, could last a lifetime. With the right care, there's no reason that you couldn't continue to ride the board for 50 or 100 years. So that's what's really exciting about it as a product. It's not the sort of thing that's going to get thrown away in 6 months because it's breaking down. It's going to be around for a long time, and that's what we wanted to do when we started out with it, and I think we've really nailed it with the kids board. So it's a really, really exciting project to have gotten off the ground from scratch, and to see it doing so well is really awesome. So really excited to see how that can grow into the future, and hopefully we can build on that as well with other products. So we've got big plans. Like I said, like to outgrow the workshop as soon as we can, and I think if we're in a position that we're ready to outgrow the workshop, then things are going really well. We've got a couple of new products in the pipeline that are going to be launching really soon that are very exciting. They're board products, but they're not skateboards. I'll let you think about that for a moment. But I think that's going to take us in a slightly new direction, and I think that's going to open us up to more people. And so the opportunity to share the idea and the concept behind Gully boards is really exciting, and I think the more people that can be part of the brand and part of the Gully Boards family, the better. So really looking forward to sharing those products in the future. So we make 3 sizes of boards. When we started out, we were really conscious that not everyone wants to ride the same board, so we wanted to offer enough variety with a mixture of shapes and sizes, but not make things too complicated for ourselves as well. So we started out with 3 sizes and 3 shapes. So we have our pintail, which is a really classic sort of longboard cruiser shape, and then we've added in the V-tail or the surf tail, which I guess is a modern take on a traditional sort of longboard surfboard, but for a skateboard. And then our flat tail, which was again a bit of a more modern take on a traditional board, but has proven to be really popular. So we really like the 3 shapes that we've come up with, and definitely looking to add to that moving forward. And as we look to do some more custom boards, we'll do custom shapes as well, just to give people more variety and really test ourselves on what we can do in the manufacturing process. So I guess the idea for the Gully Boards brand was really born out of a life of riding boards. I grew up riding surfboards and snowboards, bodyboards and wakeboards with a group of mates from school, and my passion for board riding started there. And whilst we don't necessarily get out for the surfing and the snowboarding as much as we used to, the idea and the concept of riding with your mates is really where Gully Boards was born, and I think we've been able to carry that through now into our kids board, and really trying to encourage the next generation of board riders, be that skate, surf, snow, wake, to get on a board and get on early and learn the skills so that they can enjoy the experiences of board riding with their friends into the future, because it's an amazing experience. It's a fun experience, not always a competitive experience, which is, I think, part of the fun. And it really can take you to some amazing parts in the world. And I love nothing more than riding a board, be it a surfboard, a snowboard, or a skateboard, in an amazing location. There's something really exhilarating about it. And that's what part of Gully Boards is all about, is about exploring and searching out amazing locations to go for a cruise on whatever board you're riding at the time. Gully, where does that come from? So I grew up right next to Ferntree Gully, and so I grew up in a town called Baronia, but went to school and all of my friends lived in Ferntree Gully, and so when we started board riding, surfing and snowboarding, we called ourselves the Gully Board Riders, and so that's really where the idea of Gully kind of came from. And when I knew I was going to start making boards of my own, Gully Boards was almost a no-brainer. So the Gully Board Riders don't really don't get out too much these days, but Gully Boards lives on, so that's been pretty cool. Thanks for watching, and keep an eye out on the socials across Instagram, Facebook and YouTube. We're at Gully Boards. We'll see you cruising soon.